Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We spoke earlier today to James Marsh, who's the MD of Andromeda Metals, an ASX-listed kaolin halloysite developer with assets in Australia. Now, if you want our thoughts and opinions on that conversation and indeed the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports, market commentary from experts from all around the world on a variety of commodities and companies. There are training videos on there, summaries of other interviews that we have done, and of course a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other. And if you go there now and sign up for the waitlist, you qualify for a 7-day free trial. And of course, we'd love your thoughts and feedback too. So do give us a like, leave your comments below. And if you want to see what we talked about today, take a look in the description below. James, how are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Matthew. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, we spoke back in June. And sounds like things are going quite well there. Looking at your share price, you're at 5 cents when we spoke to you, now at 17. The market's listening.
It certainly is, yeah. They've cottoned on to our story, and they like the fact that we're moving the project forward and we're doing what we say we do. And since we last spoke, we've expanded our resources dramatically and also made some progress with our potential sales.
Yeah, well, I'm going to hear all about it in a second. So just for people new to the story, if you don't mind, give us that 1 minute overview, James, and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, so Andromeda Metals, we aim to be the world's biggest producer of halloysite kaolin, which is quite a rare and more valuable form of kaolin, and also the leader in nanotechnologies, which are downstream opportunities which come from that halloysite technology. We have the largest resources of this material, high purity material in the world already.
Okay, you better, again, just for the people new to this, better explain what halloysite is used for, all the different applications, current applications.
Yes. Okay, so halloysite kaolin is a rare form of kaolin. This is an industrial mineral, and kaolin is something that's used every day. You'll come across it in all sorts of walks of life. It's in your cars, in your house, in your food, in fact. But this form of kaolin is a different shape. It occurs in natural nanotubes. And those tubes make it highly functional in a lot of new and exciting applications, as well as very desirable in very mature application, which is top quality porcelain. So these tubes are quite rare in the world, and because of their shape and their purity, it makes them much higher value than standard kaolin.
Okay, thank you for that. And we're going to talk about some of the future uses of this. We're going to talk about nanotech today, which is quite exciting. But let's talk about what's happened since I last saw you, because we talked just after your pre-feasibility study came out, which was pretty much based on the porcelain applications, right? But you were doing a lot more than that in the background. And again, we need to talk about that. But first, your share price really took off when the Hammerhead drill results came out. People got excited about the scale of what you've got there. So maybe just talk us through what those numbers looked like.
Yeah, so the Hammerhead results were exceptionally good. We added another 51.5 million tons of resource of good quality halloysite kaolin resource. So that's expanded the potential mine life that we had by another 50 years potentially. That resource was also open in many directions, so it's still much bigger than that. But another exciting aspect of that resource was the fact that there's some very nice high purity halloysite in there. So a higher concentration of these tubes. And it's something I've been looking at for a long time on how they may interact when used in a concrete type application and other building products. And so samples of that were being tested, and I've been looking at this for a long time now. And results have been showing very clear benefits as concrete is curing. So we have things like early strength gain, so the concrete gets stronger more quickly, but it also handles better, flows better. There's all sorts of knock-on advantages with reduced bleeding and reduced segregation. So the results for this concrete testing was very interesting, and they've been carrying on now. So we're going through now we've reached 56 days of testing. By November 25th, that'll be 90 days of testing. And that will qualify the material to be fully certified by Australian standards for concrete use, which will cover about 99% of the Australian concrete industry.
It is fantastic, and I want to know more about that in a sec. But I want, just for this, sequential process for people again coming at this new, because HalioSite, most people have never heard of it. Okay, don't know what it does, don't know what the applications are. So I want to put your results in context. This is world class, possibly market leading in terms of the scale and the quality. Okay, so that needs to be said. I said your PFS was done on the basis of the porcelain only, and you've explained the applications: porcelain, plastics, paints, products, medical. There's lots of applications of stuff, so there's a demand for it, and there's probably more demand than there's supply at the moment. So that your numbers are great from just that perspective alone. I know you want to talk about the exciting, slightly sexier stuff, which is okay. You come from the cement industry. You found an application there. I think the market's reacted positively to that as well this morning. What's your involvement with that? Are you just like handing over HalioSite and saying, right, or Kayla and saying, right, there you go, get on with it. Let us know how you get on, or are you involved in the actual process of testing? Yeah,
so the concrete testing is something I've been involved with now for over 30 years. Various forms of kaolin that go into concrete, and it is used as an additive for various reasons around the world. So it's something I'm quite used to. I've been involved in pattern work in concretes and all sorts of other concrete testing activities. So when I saw the structure of the HalioSite, the charge structure, the shape of the particles, I realized that there was a good potential for some positive interaction when it's used in a concrete. So knowing that chemical basis and the morphological basis, then I spent a long time making up various mix designs just to see what the potential benefits could be. And after a lot of sort of backyard bucket testing of this material, realized that, this has got true potential. At that point, used a very experienced concrete consultant, to set up a very thorough testing program. And the important thing was that this testing program is in very commercial mix designs. And what we're talking about here is a very low addition rate, somewhere between possibly 1 kilo of the HalioSite kaolin, so maybe 3 kilos, somewhere in that region, per cubic meter of concrete. That equates to something like 1,000 parts per million, which actually isn't very much at all. So that means that this product can be sold at a very high price compared to normal kaolin business and HalioSite kaolin business, and yet it won't actually have any detrimental effect to the concrete cost, because it can be used to actually make the concrete cheaper as well.
So but tell me, what's the benefit? What does it do to the concrete? Why would people want to put this in there? Why would they want to buy from you?
So what we're finding that it's doing for the concrete is, first of all, it's a rheology modifier, which means it improves all the handling aspects of concrete. And this is a very touchy-feely type thing that concrete people know all about. And how it pumps, how it flows, how it places, it's all very important. And having this rheology modifier in there helps all of those different functions of the concrete, which can reduce labor, can reduce losses, those sort of things. But it also means you can optimize the mix design. By having the better rheology, you can change the additives go in there and cut cost out. But what we're also finding is that apart from the rheology improvements, we're finding it gives a better early strength gain. So it seems to optimize the cement in the concrete and give a better curing, so a more efficient curing, so we get higher strength early. So the whole range of desirable benefits there we're seeing.
Okay, and concrete has got different uses itself. So some applications are going to be easier to sell into than others, I suspect. But you're seeing it's early days in terms of testing. You're 21, 28 days into this process, are you?
Well, actually 56 days now. But
56, sorry.
The testing, the testing for usage purposes goes up to 28 days. So that's good enough for customers to take it to the next stage of their own testing. 56 days and 90 days are used to pass Australian standards to make sure there's no detrimental long-term effects. So that's still ongoing. But you're quite right. There's all sorts of different mixed designs of concrete in different applications. So what we've done is we've picked a number of mixed designs that will really value those additional benefits. So where those are highly desirable, so customers will be prepared to pay for that additive to go in there because they can see the benefits in Example of things like deep foundation pilings where it's under high pressure. And by adding our halloysite additive to it, reduces bleed of water dramatically, which is a very desirable benefit. So we're picking these applications where we're going to maximize the efficiency, but also maximize the potential in terms of sales.
Yeah, well, that's what I was really getting at, is trying to understand the quantum here, because concrete, that's a big market, right? And if you can get into that market, this is potentially huge for you, certainly as one of the main suppliers in the world for this, with this product. So at some point you'll be, I mean, what is the next stages on that? How do you work out what the scale is, what the opportunity is for you guys and what it could do for the company?
So what we're doing at the moment, we're finishing our report off this weekend. The Australian standards will be passed by November 25th. But between this weekend and then, we're starting talks with a number of potential end users, and these are, in some cases, quite large potential end users, presented results to them and gauging the level of interest to see who might like to get involved with us. Can we do a deal with a major player, or should we go through a different take a different approach and say go through a distribution channel where someone who distributes to the construction market worldwide possibly, and they would like to maybe distribute this for us and take us on board in their portfolio of products.
Okay. Again, look, it's early days. A number of ways you can come at it. It'd be great to have a major cement company come in there, like a Cemex or whatever. Okay, well, like I say, early days. You'll work it out, you figure it out, and come back to us. And look, I'm not sticking to the project. You explained in the last interview how you're going about doing that. The grades, the margins, etc. I mean, the numbers in the PFS look great. I'm assuming feasibility is underway.
Yeah, so at the moment we're working through our definitive feasibility study now.
DFS. Right.
Now, what we did is our target was to get this out by about mid-December, but that was before the concrete opportunity arose. So we're now reviewing our options on that to see, well, is it worth extending that timeline a bit just to incorporate the concrete opportunity and other construction products, because that won't actually affect our project timeline at all. It's not on the critical pathway, so we may as well take a bit longer and improve the DFS numbers, because the benefit, one of the other huge benefits of this concrete product is that it's far easier to make for us than for the porcelain. It's very, very simple process. It's just taking the sand out. In fact, not even all the sand, because that's already a component of concrete. So we can do a very basic refining process there with much higher recoveries, much lower cost, and yet we potentially do something we can sell for a lot more money. And the other very attractive part of this business is that we have got here a very large potential domestic market. So it will really de-risk the product greatly by having a home market for this material, but a much higher margin. So the potential knock-on effects of our DFS are very significant. So at the moment, we are looking at those options. Timing-wise, we haven't quite worked out what we're doing yet, but I'd like to see that actually in the DFS.
Okay. No, I don't blame you. I mean, on the current PFS, the numbers look great anyway. If you can try and scope this out for, a process which is less costly and a bigger market, obviously that's nothing short of good. What are I'm interested today to talk about some of the newer applications. Okay, the nanotech. There's lots of white papers out there, thousands of white papers out there about how to use the halloysite tubes in various technologies. But some of those are in the distant future. Some are going to be nearer than others. So what are you working on at the moment that kind of with a sort of near-term look to it?
So yeah, we've been working for a long time now with the Global Innovation Centre for Nanotechnology in the University of Newcastle in New South Wales, under our joint venture with Minotaur. So we have a joint venture called Natural Nanotech, which is an IP company, basically. So any IP that we capture from this will go into Natural Nanotech. But recently we're making some big advances in move towards commercialization of these materials. And this is why we made an announcement this morning on the subject. We're finding that we're getting some exceptional results in three areas initially of interest. One is carbon capture. Now, carbon capture is very topical because the whole world wants to reduce CO2, but we've found that by activating the halloysite kaolin in a certain way, we can produce a material that will selectively remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and produce a product that can be used in some very interesting applications. For example, in submarines. And here we're talking about a product that could literally sell for millions of dollars a ton. So it's hard to imagine that sort of price, but yeah, that's what they go for, and it's proven technology, and we're finding now that this does work. And we have a pilot plant that is in construction phase that will be operating by the end of the year, and that will be able to produce commercial amounts. So that's one area, carbon capture. The other aspects of carbon capture are we're working on our general capture of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and conversion into clean fuels. So we're getting good results converting carbon dioxide into methanol, for example, which is a clean fuel. So that's one area. Another area that's exciting is in water purification, where the halloysite, again, once activated the right way, the structure and the shape of the halloysite makes it exceptionally good for removing nasties from water, so antimicrobial action. And here we've had results so good that a leading expert, he looked at these, said they're the best results he's seen in over 15 years in the industry. So again, that's a very interesting one, and very exciting. And also in lithium-ion batteries and supercapacitors, what we're finding is we can make specialized carbon nanostructures from the halloysite, and when they're activated a certain way and put into batteries, there's a tremendous improvement in the performance of these batteries. So lithium-ion batteries, the actual charge density goes right up, and by a very significant amount. And these batteries are now being produced by the University of Newcastle. They can make the whole battery from start to finish. So we're hoping to have some batteries made up with these natural halloysite, nanotech carbons in there, and that we can actually show in a demonstration.
Right, you're hitting all the key words: carbon capture, nanotech, water purification, lithium-ion batteries. That's you can tick all those boxes, but you've got to deliver some numbers. You've got to show the economics around those things. So they are the nearest term ones, and those are things that people are looking at the moment, get excited about. But what's the actual reality of the process of where it is now to getting some sort of sense of the economics around each of those?
So at the moment, the carbon capture one that I mentioned first, and that is proven technology. So we know the price in the market for that, and we know it works. So that's why that's so advanced. The other ones less so advanced. We know we're getting some incredibly good performances there, and way beyond current technologies. So they're exciting, but they've got a little bit further to go before we can get a feel for what the market potential is. And the other one that I didn't mention, of course, is hydrogen storage that we're looking at. So another very topical subject. We're getting some excellent results using the material of hydrogen storage. Again, that's we've got some more research to go on that, and it's hard to get a feel for what it's worth. But what we know at this point is that the halloysite can be used to store very large amounts of hydrogen very safely, which is one of the real Achilles heels for hydrogen, is the safe storage and transport. So we've potentially got a solution for that here with what we're doing with the university. So there's a number of initiatives there, and we've got a team of 6 PhDs working on these. So a lot of very good work going into them, and we will be capturing IP on those as we go forward, and then looking at how we can maximize the commercial impact of those.
I'm intrigued as to how you're thinking, because these are great science projects, right? And they're nanotech. They sound futuristic, but so are the economics. So as a business, you've got core business, which is you've got these assets. You've worked out the economics on those. You understand the markets for those. I understand you desire to bring concrete into the mix, pardon the pun, where you can give people a sense of where the company can go. But with these sort of newer tech things, are these kind of like spin-offs, or are these things that you're going to have to bring partners in to be able to develop properly? Or are you getting excited about those?
No, we don't actually necessarily need partners to do this, because the university has got the ability to ramp this up into commercialization. So with the carbon capture, they're already doing that. They've got a pilot plant virtually constructed and operational, and it's just scaling up of that. Should be relatively simple. So the IP company, which is Natural Nanotech, will capture the IP for that, but then the material will come from our Great White project initially, which is our first operational mine. That will go through the pilot plants and produce end products. So we can do that fairly quickly for the carbon capture, and then scaling up of that. It's just a case of getting enough interest from the market, getting some sort of offtakes, because these are very valuable products. So what we know is that the university is already actually selling some of this material overseas, but a different version, the older version, so the old technology. So what we have here is a new technology which works much better than the old technology, and they're already involved in the market for the previous one. So we've got an immediate way in there. So areas like, there are many other areas like the hydrogen, for example, then we would need a partner for that probably, because we'd have to have someone who was heavily involved in the hydrogen industry, just to partner up to get that commercialized quickly. But it's a case of we have got time to do that, because in the background there we've got our initial product going to porcelain, which is very mature, established market. It's been used in porcelain for 1,000 years, so that market hasn't changed. It's grown year on year for 25, 30 years, 5% every year. The only thing that's changed is the supply of this material of the halloysite kaolin has decreased. So there's a shortage of supply, yet that market still exists and it's very mature. They value the material. So we've got that as a very early stage first business. The concrete is really coming along so quickly that it could be phased in exactly the same sort of time, but at high value. And behind that, we've got these new blue sky technologies that we're working on that say that I think the carbon capture is going to be first cab off the rank there. And that could be going as early as Christmas. We could be having commercial amounts being made of that, start that process going. So, and it won't be difficult to make once we've got that happening. So these things could happen very quickly, but there is some research to be done in certain areas there, and over the next year, 2 years, who knows, there's some exciting things can be done with halloysite, and that's why we formed this Natural Nanotech company, to try and capture all these new opportunities.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, what do you want to be known for? How would you describe yourself? Are you industrial chemicals? Are you what? Because all of these new initiatives are very different. They have different markets of different, I imagine, skill sets required to sell into those markets and networks and so forth. So how do you be all things to all men?
Well, our ambition is to be all things halloysite. So we want to be everything to do with halloysite. That means the production of halloysite, the sale of that material into existing markets, but then also all the downstream halloysite technologies associated with that, so the new blue sky technologies. So we have the experience to sell into the industrial minerals markets. So halloysite is industrial minerals, and I've had over 30 years experience selling to those markets. So I have a very wide network around the whole world, contacts in every area. So it's not a problem selling those into the market. Now the new products, obviously it's a whole new ball game, because it's new technologies, but these are such exciting new areas where we're getting such incredibly good performance. And everyone we're talking to are saying straight away, yeah, well, this stuff looks like it's a game changer in these certain areas. And it's areas where people are very keen to progress, because it's basically solving energy problems for the world, or solving pollution problems for the world. You know, and we've already got applications in for other areas of research there. For example, removing microplastics from the ocean and recycling using halloysites. Also in medical treatments, antibacterial, antiviral treatments, and also in agricultural applications. So these things are all going on in the background as well. It's a case of what happens first. They're looking so interesting that there's going to be a lot of success here. It's a case of which is happening first and which is going to be the first one into the market.
Right. Okay. So back to basics. You've got product going out to clients at the moment on the porcelain front for testing. Have you?
Yes. At the moment we have about 6 tons of material. It's just arrived over in China from production trials in Japan. So that's over there now, and that's going to be going out to our potential offtake customers. So it's going to be sampled to them to their commercial trials, and then we'll be pushing them for binding offtakes. And that's for the early stage business. Also, in that process, we manufactured some very nice porcelain items with the Andromeda logos on, and they will be on display soon. And that just goes to prove that what sort of quality we can get from our halloysite kaolin. So that's all happening as we speak.
Fantastic. Well, look, exciting days ahead of you for sure. Well done so far on what you've done. I look forward to seeing what happens from those test results and getting some of those offtakes in. So, congrats, James. Appreciate your time today. Stay in touch and let us know how you're getting on. Okay.
So, will do. Thanks for that, Matthew.